All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Midnight Magic Musings channel. I am still your humble host, Lord Cephas, joined tonight by Lady Cephas and good friend of the channel, Broken Ansible. BA, how are you this evening?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing well. Well, what we wanted to do in this special episode, Realm of Reality, episode 20, is talk a little bit about seasons 10 and 11 of The Walking Dead. Broken Ansible is a fan of the Walking Dead franchise. Just recently was able to finish both the end of season 9, which we talked about previously, and then seasons 10 and 11. Lady Cephas is a big fan of The Walking Dead, so we're just going to kind of reminisce a little bit about last year's drop of seasons 10 and 11. I guess we should start with this for both of you. Broken Ansible, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you rank season 10?
I think, you know, direction wise,
Mhm.
I'd say it was an 8.5. I think their storytelling wise, it's like a 6.75, but I think it evens out at maybe a 7.75 or an 8.
Okay, cool. All right, Lady Cephas, I'm going to throw it to you. That's the season with the Whisperers. How would you give them for the whole season?
I'm gonna go with BA there on my feeling on how it went because I was not a big Whisperers
Mhm.
fan.
All right, and I guess I'll weigh in since no one asked me. I would say that's probably about fair, 8-ish, somewhere in there, simply because I thought there were some really good episodes. I thought there were some drag episodes. I do know they had to combine, or they did combine about 30 comic book episodes, not episodes, issues into that season. So they kind of were able to pick and choose what they wanted, but it drug on a little bit. But overall, I was entertained. I think. We will Broken Ants, when we talked last time on the show, we did the Ahsoka / Walking Dead season 9. You talked about Alpha and whatnot. Well, when we get to season 10, there's a shocking end to Alpha at the hands of one of our favorite protagonists, and that of Negan. I just want to ask you, what did you think of the character of Beta?
So Beta was pretty much the only hook that I think that the Whispers had for me. I think the whole Whisper arc suffered from a once you do the reveal of the monster, the monster. It's like Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street 1, scary movie. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, kind of scary, but then they
Mm-hmm.
just become a joke. Same thing with Friday the 13th after part 4, the movies are just kind of like slapstick. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel that The Walking Dead Whispers arc, it started off very scary, very intimidating, very interesting. And then they abruptly kind of show you everything behind the scenes of the Whispers. And they kind of give human faces to the monsters that they, you know, set up really, really well. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that they just have bad directors. They just have terrible like follow through with their storytelling. They One person sets it up really great and then everybody lets it down. So I thought that was pretty much the Whispers. Now to your question, I thought he was the one. Beta was like the one true Whisper. Like he's something's interesting about him.
Yeah.
He is a believer, and he ends up really really getting into it. Um, and he has a very interesting dynamic with Alpha, um, because Alpha and Beta would kill a fool if they
Sure.
found out they had weakness, but then they had weakness towards each other, which I found was a very interesting thing. Um, but I thought that there are some good episodes, there are some mediocre episodes, and I overall didn't like um, the sisters arc too much. I thought that was just kind of they try to mess with your head too much,
Right.
and then the payoffs just aren't worth it, and
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
kind of going to lead us into season 10 as well.
Well, now I know that Lady Cephas had something to throw in there.
Yeah, I think that the Alpha, she was pretty brutal, but I have to say to me, that Beta had the potential to really be the one that was more scary to me. Like he, I did not like that they made him, a follower of hers. I mean, yeah, she kind of ran everything, but I really think very easily he could have taken that away from her and really brought more horror to their group. She was abusive, but didn't feel like she added a horror component to it. Whereas I felt like he absolutely would. He was this big, enormous man who, was quiet and scary and kind of gave me that whole Jason Voorhees, like, never would die feeling.
The Kane Hodder of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Well, early on he went down the elevator shaft,
Right.
and it was very much like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think they could have gotten more out of it. Samantha Morton she's an amazing actress, and I think she did a phenomenal job with the material that she was given. Excuse me. But they kind of, in my opinion, kind of went flat with it. It could have been more.
I don't think that acting, no matter whom is really the subject of that we would put under the microscope, I don't think anybody's acting, any one person is bad. I think, in fact, there's several like her. She was stand out. Like she acted, and I think everybody really does act very well in this show.
Yes, I agree.
It's just that the showrunners are so, whomever is running it, you have a director that knocks something out of the park, grand slams it, sets everything up, and then they just kind of like switch. It's not like they're playing baseball anymore. They're starting to play like rugby. And they're just, the ball's just squirting from one side of the field to the other, and people are huddling up. It feels so different. The tones are so different. And I started thinking about this yesterday, is that because I was finishing up season 11. I didn't even know it was season 11. I thought Netflix was wrong. I was like, oh, no, surely I couldn't be on 11 already. But it feels like if you watch it week to week, it's easier not to spot the flaws.
Interesting.
Which is really how it should be. But
well, I mean, I kind of disagree with that. I don't believe in television anymore. I don't think, like, everything has a television is going away.
Right.
Everything's going binge. It's the way of the future. They're sold, they're broken up as movies. They're sold on DVD sets like a big, like a big movie. And television is having to squirm and find its place in the new world, not the other way around. So I think that things should be ran tighter. They have a whole team at Star Wars for this, right?
Sure.
Even though it's questionable the content that they do approve, they go to great lengths to make sure that when you watch an episode of The Mandalorian, it feels like The Mandalorian. Whereas and back in the day, you could watch like 6 or 7 different Star Trek The Next Generations, and they all felt like Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm not so sure I feel that in some of these episodes of The Walking Dead. I'm watching The Walking Dead, season 4, in one episode, and then I get like a season 7, the next way, where they're just the amount of dialogue that is lacking in one episode, and then next thing you know, you just get a verbose, like, explanation for everything, and things that you didn't even want to know about, you now know. And I think that is a terrible way to run a show.
Well, you bring that up, and one I think for me, and I don't want to speak for Lady Cephas or for you, one of the standout directors that I've seen on The Walking Dead would be the former Abraham, Michael Cudlitz, who did a
Still like
few.
that.
He's done a couple of episodes as a director. Do you remember the episode for season 10 where they were interrogating the Whisperer, and they the Whisperer gets poisoned by Dante? Um, it was about halfway through the first part of the
Oh yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't like a
that
lot of
that was
those
an
episodes.
episode that was directed by Michael Cudlitz. I thought that was good. Um, there's an episode early on called "Silence the Whisperers,"
Yeah.
which he did. I thought that was pretty good as well. I think what you're saying is when you have so many cooks in the kitchen, it's hard to get a flow. And this is a bit off topic, but it makes the point from what both you were saying. Take a look at how difficult it's been for Marvel with having different directors every single time. And sometimes having a director with no story, or a story and no director, and you get what you get, sort of a hodgepodge. So I don't think The Walking Dead is immune to that as well. As far as it's difficult to get a flow um, in
It's
the way they
serving
film
two
it.
masters. It's serving
Well,
two
Well,
masters.
well, I feel like too though, but you've got so many characters and so many different character arcs
mm,
that split off that you have no choice but to you know have different perspectives on those different stories, and I think that's one thing that the different directors bring in.
mm.
And I think, as crazy as it sounds, it actually adds a little flavor because you're not falling into a rut of the same old thing.
But
Everything.
do we have the ability to see the juxtaposition though? Because it's like, if that's just the way it is, and we're reasoning why it works, that doesn't dismiss the point that it shouldn't be like that, and if it wasn't, that it would be lesser, right?
Well, I
So,
think if you were dealing with a smaller cast, you probably wouldn't have this what you all are talking about. But because the
but what does
cast
the cast
ballooned,
size have? What does the cast size have to do
Well,
with a
because just
director?
as I
yeah.
think, just with anything, in just today's world, not even the apocalypse, you have people with different personalities, and having, just like going to a job and working, you have different personalities that come together, and how they interact together. You're going to have different outcomes on who you put together. So you have to be open to realizing that, well, this might work with, um, Daryl and Carol, but not Carol and Negan. They're not going to work the same way, have the same. I'm not even sure how to describe it. They're not going to have the same chemistry as Carol and Daryl do. Yet Carol and Negan worked when it came to taking out, um,
Alpha.
Alpha.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I'm not actually making any opinion about that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, like, the reality of the world is everything can be different and interesting. I'm talking about this show's tone literally shifts on how it tells its stories. Like, they try and trick you. They set things up. They put in traps. They follow through with the trap until they completely take the legs out from underneath you. That's what I'm talking. And there's no payoff for it. And they've done it over and over and over. Like, they put enough, is this or isn't this? Is this or isn't this? And 9 times out of 10 now, it's not. It's just, it is what it is. That
but
I'm
it,
not talking about, like, how how characters interact with each other and how they build the stories. I'm talking about the literal tone of the show, the way they tell the story, the way they're writing like they're trying to get the audience to think a certain thing because they're putting thriller into this. If this was a drama, this would be a lot easier. But they're adding horror and thriller elements to it, and they're not following horror and thriller follow throughs. They're still saying, well, we're still going to tell the story and we're still going to have these interactions, but we're going to try to have a horror tone. And then they sell off the farm, so to speak, and rip all the horror things from out from under you by giving all this explanation to it. They've given a face to the monster, and now it's no longer a horror show, and it goes back to being a normal Walking Dead episode. And then they still try and like use music and use like suspenseful moments or looks or glances to make you think that is this a trick, or are they liars, like what they did with Negan. They set him up like to a redemption path, and then they give you like this 30-second is he going to turn on Ezekiel thing. It's like, no, you've told me this entire time for the last two seasons that he's going to have a redemption arc, and you think I'm going to fall for your pulling the carpet up from underneath my feet again? No, he's going to go in, and he's like, they ended the commercial scene with him like looking at the warden, and then the next scene is pretty much the warden coming out and saying, I found the traitor. Of course you found the traitor. Of course Negan was going to turn himself in. Of course this was going to happen, because you've given me 2 seasons worth of things that I don't believe you have the guts to rip from out from underneath my feet. So this tension that you built was absolutely garbage. No payoff whatsoever. I didn't believe it. It was unbelievable with the tone they set themselves, except they had a director that went through the motions of setting up the suspense. That's what I'm talking about. It's just like, it's face palm, It's like, why are they doing this?
Well,
Cut the fat,
But what you just said is what drives most stories. You have the ebb and flow, what's going to happen. You think this is going to happen, but then something else happens. I mean, at what point do you no longer want to wonder, do you want, are you just expecting it to be this way? Well, I think that takes part of the thrill of the show away. If you want there to not be a guessing game, and then say, okay, well, you're setting up for XYZ, then I need XYZ to happen.
I don't think you can say that they were ever going to do that. That was a technique for television, and I don't think that works in the day of binge watching. So I'm not talking about I'm not talking about them removing the ebb and flow, the peaks and the valleys. I'm saying that they have created 2 seasons worth of expectation, but they only gave you 15 seconds of questioning that expectation. That is functionally incorrect for them to do, because it was never going to work. If you gave me 3 episodes, give me reasons why he's going to betray them, not just like this one moment, in a moment of weakness, he's going to go back to being a coward and a crazy man and a self-fulfilling, demon, and throw everything away over his baby, who obviously he wants that baby to know that he's changed, because he just gave a speech to the little boy about that. It's like they've undermined themselves and how they can add drama to it. They could have done 5 extra things to not even go down that path and still add drama without and then that one guy, they got to turn on his people because he was in the room with Negan. These are These are throwaway moments that they expect you to build entire pivot points off of. Like, I felt nothing when that guy turned on his comrades, because it literally introduced like 5 minutes ago, and he was in a scene right before a commercial, and he never was shown again until right before a commercial, right after a commercial. I just don't
Well,
buy that storytelling anymore.
I think both of you come from valid perspective. She watched it in real time, week to week. You just binged it all back to back to back over a prescribed period of time. And I think your viewing opinions on that are skewed by how you all took in the content. And
Yeah.
That's
if if going forward we're going to go to a binge model where everything is released all at one time, watch it as you want, then I think you're right. You are going to have to change the storytelling trope, because if people are going to watch it that close together, they are going to pick out flaws that are maybe a little more readily apparent to them versus someone who's watching, who has to wait for that week to come. And you've got to sit on that episode for a week and chew on it. And then when the next one comes, you kind of put that other episode kind of out of your mind, and then you just start over with this one. So I think that's
I
one of the
also think The
challenges.
Walking Dead gets in the way too, or The Talking Dead also glares over a lot of flaws or a lot of stuff, because people are thinking about the show, listening about how others felt about the show after the show. It's kind of like the cigarette, afterwards moment, where you don't really look at the faults of the show. You're kind of playing up the story that happened and was told,
Sure.
whereas Star Wars doesn't get that same thing. And also, if you look at the way, even though they're 35 to 45-minute episodes, they're told like movies. They're told
Mhm.
like standalones. So there can never, there's no like what's going to happen on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. That The
Right.
Walking Dead always has that expectation, and they even are like, "Hey, after the show, let's discuss it on The Talking Dead." And then people start talking about the meat and potatoes of what happens, and they don't talk about the flaws, right? That
Well,
were
but
that were right there.
there's no way you're going to go on and talk about the flaws of an episode on an AMC produced show about an AMC produced show. It's
Yeah.
just
No, what I'm
it's
saying is that I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's just the outcome of when you have a serial that has commercial breaks, that
mhm.
they're able to put dramatic pauses and cut things off and leave you hanging while they know that you're checking your cell phone, or you're needing to go to the restroom, or getting up to grab a drink, or there's all type of things that you do because commercials are there and they have a captive audience. So
I
when
see.
you move to a
Versus not
podcast,
having the commercials and just blowing right through it and taking it all in
yeah,
okay, I'm with you. Okay. All right.
yeah, and then so you have 50 years of television, right? That does that. And
Right.
that's not to say that's wrong. That's just it is what it is.
Sure.
So, but then you go to a air quote podcast format after the show, instead, so you're still reveling in the show that you just watched, but it's like the greatest hits version of it. And so they're kind of transitioning you from the television to the modern era, but they're still capitalizing on their IP through television, right? Obviously they're making hand over fist on DVD and Blu-ray sales, and
No
also
doubt.
their Netflix license as well, right?
Oh yeah.
And I actually do feel like the Fear of the Walking Dead was a way different format that they got to experiment with, a different type of storytelling. Is why I think the Fear of the Walking Dead storytelling was way better. Um, I thought that the Walking Dead storytelling, even though I like the story better, um, I think the Fear of the Walking Dead storytelling was on point from day one. In fact, I thought it was more film like than you would get from The Walking Dead. And thought that they brought over some ideas from Fear that really worked for them, especially the horror and the thriller aspects of the show. I thought were really good.
I
Um,
really feel like when you get to Fear, it was a different mindset. The early days of the fall of mankind or humanity, however you want to describe it, they really got to lean into not just the scary part of the walkers, but what would people be like if this situation took place. What must it have felt like? Because you remember with The Walking Dead, it was scary the first season because you had no idea what was going on because there was
Exactly.
no context. When you start putting context to it, there's certainly a fear element. But as time progresses, it's more about the people to be afraid of.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me transition over just a little bit. I got a couple episodes I want to highlight with you all. Then we'll go to season 11. One episode would have to be the fact that we finally find out what Beta's background was. But if you watch Fear the Walking Dead, you already knew that he was a famous country singer. They
Yes.
revealed that because he likes to play his own records, what I thought was tremendous. So I thought that was a pretty interesting uh, issue of the season. We get to see Denai Guerrilla, Michonne leave after going off with Virgil to take psychotropic drugs and eat mushrooms to make soup. That was just strange to me. We would take an hour just to talk about that.
Yeah,
That
not
was
one of
out
my
there.
favorites. Definitely
Yeah.
not one of my favorites.
I know what they were
Yeah.
trying for. It just never felt. If it was going to be a 2-hour episode, maybe.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
another episode that I thought was kind of like weird. It was out of place. And
Yeah.
so those are very risky episodes because it could have been a great episode, but I felt that I was watching Michonne's like hangover and not what was actually happening in the moment. If you told me that episode was actually her sitting at a campfire, off in the middle of New Jersey, and she was just remembering what happened there, that would be more of what actually I saw than an actual episode that actually had things happen in it. It was
That
so
actually that would have been interesting to have her just sitting around a campfire flashbacking over everything she's been through and maybe adding in some scenes that we hadn't seen before to give some exposition on it. That wouldn't have been nearly as trippy.
I think
yeah.
in hindsight, with the pandemic throwing everything just into a kerfuffle, and it really changed the dynamics of what AMC was going to do with the movies and whatnot. I really feel like I would have been, and I still to this day would be happier had they killed her off instead of done what they've done. Let Rick die, let him be gone. For a mother to leave her two children in during the apocalypse with all of this to go after a man, her husband, whatever, father of her child, um, it just doesn't. It has never sat well with me. That to me is just poor storytelling. I understand that they had to write her out because she wanted to leave. I understand that Andrew Lincoln wanted to leave. Yes, he was gonna do movies, but I wasn't even excited about that. It's like if you want to go, and send him out in a blaze of glory, like when the bridge blew up. However, it just doesn't ring true to me. And I honestly, even now, I'm not excited about the Rick and Michonne spinoff. Will I watch it? Absolutely, because I've been a Walking Dead fan from the beginning. I still am, flaws and all. But I've really enjoyed the Daryl Dixon spinoff. Dead City. I really enjoyed that. I look at it, differently from what The Walking Dead, what that brought. Just like Fear was so different, or is so different. That's just my opinion on that. As far as Michonne goes, because oh God, you're just like holding on to that, something. Oh, what's going to happen? You have fantastic characters that are still there that you can tell a great story with, you know, use them for what they are.
Yeah,
I understand it didn't go by, you know, it wasn't part of the comic, but still, you know, if you're going to stick by that, then go by it, you know, episode by episode. But they didn't. So just write a good story.
yeah, I don't really have too much to say about how believable it was for her to leave her kids, like how they wrote that. Because one thing that they did kind of hammer home in season 8, I believe, is that all those kids, everybody in Alexandria, and by extension Hilltop, all of them are everybody's kids. Like that's how, like as Carl was, given, his last breath, you know, and the way Daryl actually told that late Leah, I think her name was,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Leah. Hmm.
uh how when he didn't even skip a beat when she asked him what he was doing out here. He's like, I'm looking for my brother.
Right.
That's such a powerful moment, and maybe that's just the guy in me, um because he doesn't even skip a beat. That came off so true. I think that in that moment, that dialogue, that's one of those storytelling pieces where I'm just like, man, these directors sometimes do know exactly everything. They do everything right sometimes. That the way it was filmed, the way it was written, and the way he rolled it off his tongue like that, I was just like, I believe Daryl Dixon truly thinks that Rick is his brother. Like the bond is too thick. There's no like there, and it also brings the bond with Carol back, because I thought they played rubber bandy with that a little bit, um in the Whispers.
When she
But
sort of went crazy, but didn't, but maybe she
uh
did, but she didn't.
oh, she did. She absolutely snapped. And but she's one of those people that have that snap under control. Like she knew exactly what she was doing, and she just didn't care. And she went psychopath. She went sociopath. And I thought the strain that they did show, I was just like, this is why Daryl is giving her the absolute benefit of the doubt, and he just walks away from her instead of like literally getting out of like the entire, like he does not run anywhere. Like the first 4 seasons, he looked like a dog that was like tugging on a leash, right? But that's not who he becomes. He becomes the guy that gravity is circling, right?
Right.
That's Daryl Dixon. And I thought when they said that, it all snapped into place for me. And I was just like, Michonne actually thinks that too. That wasn't him saying that in isolation about Rick, and that's a brother to brother relationship. No, that's who each and every one of them feel about each other. So I didn't feel any like disbelief when she left, Judith in the care, and her son in the care of RJ, is that his name?
RJ, yeah, the functional mute
Yeah,
child. Yes.
yeah, RJ with Daryl, because I was just like, well, that's like saying, I'm gonna leave him with, his biological, uncle type of deal. Um, that I thought they did a really good job with the bonds throughout these, especially Ezekiel too. Um, and you get to see the in that outside perspective where Negan's actually seeing all this stuff in real time.
Hmm.
He's actually, they do a really terrible job of the time skip, and I think they do a terrible job with that snow episode where everything is like falling apart, in the snowstorm. Negan
Yeah.
saves the
Yes.
girl and the dog. I like what they did in that, but it was just like a fever dream of the Hateful Eight. Um, they're like, hey, I just watched the Hateful Eight, after partying on this weekend. Let me go and write an episode of let's see what happens in a snowstorm um,
Well,
episode. And it kind of, you know,
Well, I
was
wanted
that
to.
one?
I wanted to back up a little bit, if you don't mind, to Daryl and Rick and Michonne and everything. I could see Daryl if he had, more of an idea that Rick was alive. I could absolutely see him going off after him because absolutely that's his brother. And we saw the scared, beaten dog that was kept on a chain, for so long in the first, like you said, in the first episodes. And he really has come into his own and allowed himself to love another human being besides Merle. And I think that's just because that was his brother who took beatings for him. But there was still a little bit between them. As far as Michonne goes, though, again, she's the mother. She should have stayed there with her kids. She very much a protector, a hunter, provider and whatnot. I just have to, I just can't. I can't wrap my head around it. Um,
I think that's one of those
Well,
cases where they could have filmed something where they had her communicating with the kids over a couple of episodes.
or
By
at
the
the end of every
walkie-talkie.
episode,
Well,
or at
with the
the end of every
walkie-talkie.
episode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. With the
yeah,
walkie-talkie, and then as the season progressed, she's like, "I'm getting further and further away, but I want you to know I love you." That way, it wouldn't have been maybe not such a shock to the system because it was a gradual. But they could have shot
right.
that
They could have
and
and played it
Yeah.
out.
and
Well,
kind of
that's
done
what
that
I'm
like the
telling you
last.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
I'm saying is that they
Yeah,
don't have good payoffs. They don't do smart things. They waste time on things they don't need to waste time on. And it's
definitely.
because they're trying to appease two masters. They're trying to build you content that
Mhm.
is going to go to the streaming platforms, that are going to go to your
Right.
home platforms, but they're pushing it onto television, like they're keeping their channel alive. It is the NCAA football of television. It is the only thing keeping that stupid channel alive, right?
Because
It's
it's one you have to watch it.
You have to watch it. It's a captive audience, and that's
Mhm.
where they're gonna drive a lot of their sales to. And it also gets the wider audience, and so now they can flood Target and Walmart with a bunch of nostalgia driven crap, where you get decks of cards, you get figures that nobody asked for, you get books like little stickers. And I mean, if you go to like the little pop culture place in Target, I mean, half
Mhm.
of it's like The Walking Dead,
Right.
and they're making hand over fist, but then it all goes into the bin. I think that they're just trying to capitalize and make quick dollars with licenses before it does go to longer form content, which I
Yeah,
think
but
everything's headed
that's
for.
the same thing Marvel does, and Disney and Universal and all of them. They all do it.
I don't think that's accurate. I think Disney Plus television shows have a different feel. They're not bad in the same way. Some of them
Well,
are
no, I'm
bad.
talking about with marketing, with the stuff that they have available. I mean, we know firsthand from having an eBay store how much Star Wars memorabilia is out there and how much we sold, like
But
figurines that we were picking up, that I picked up personally and got an enormous amount of for $1.
Disney
And
doesn't have to do that. So you're actually making my point for me. Disney doesn't have to do anything. Disney is Disney. Disney drives the market. Disney does not have to ask Walmart for shelf space. Disney tells Walmart to give it shelf space. Disney does not have to go to Target, to Walmart, to any of these places. The Walking Dead has to. It has to hit the broadest market to get its name out there, because it's a relatively unknown property that went viral on television from a very experimental thing to now it's like the one of the biggest IPs. They're holding that to dear life. They're holding on to it as tight and fast as they can, because they do have the marketability with that particular IP to do the things that only Disney and Lego would do, right? So that is exactly what I'm saying is the problem with The Walking Dead is they're serving two masters. They have this thing that they can compete with, they can do Disney things even though they're not Disney. Nobody cared about AMC until The Walking Dead, right?
And yeah, well, remember NBC got offered it first, and they passed on it because they didn't think anybody
Yeah.
would watch it. But see, they were coming right out of Constantine, which I liked the show. It didn't do very well on it on
Yeah.
with Grimm. Remember Grimm on Friday nights, which was never a
I
high
like
performer,
them.
but I did too. It was never a great rating success, but they kept it around anyway. But they passed
Yeah.
on Walking Dead, which came along about the same time those pitches did. And AMC's like, well, we got nothing else going on, and they did, and the success speaks for itself. So I want to go back one more thing with Carol with you two, because y'all are big Carol people. Turns out she's the one who let Negan go. It
Yeah.
wasn't somebody. It wasn't Father Gabriel forgot to lock up the little prison down in the basement. She let him go. I will not quote what she said to Negan, but quote, "Someone's got to die," and he was the one to get it. And get it, he did in more than one way. A crude man deserves a crude man's reward, I believe, is what was said. Was not prepared for that particular scene in season 10, but they do deal with Alpha, and it's still, here's where I had a bit of an issue, and y'all can feel free to tell me what y'all think. I felt like Negan kept doing things correctly, and it still didn't seem to matter, which felt kind of weird in
That's
storytelling
true. I
over
do agree
time.
with that.
He offs Alpha, still doesn't get him, and I'm going to use these terms kind of silly, so forgive me. He still can't get in the group after doing that. He saves Dog and Judith in the snowstorm. Still can't get in the group. It's like, well, my goodness, what do I have to do? How many hoops do I have to jump through to finally show that I'm trying to be a changed man or a changed man? It's really not until when you get into season 11, when there's Evie, who is his pregnant wife, that I think Annie. I don't know why I'm thinking Evie. My
Yeah.
bad. Where I still think they struggled back and forth with that, and sometimes I'm like, you just did this because you had to stretch it out over 24 episodes in the final season. He did everything asked of him and then some. So for me, that was one of the real challenges of some of the storytelling, because we talked about this, Lady
We
Cephas,
did.
several times.
We did.
That I just
It
I
was
think
frustrating. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
sometimes it was.
Well, I think the horror though that Negan, brought without knowing the backstory and the other things that we know now, I mean, he was a horrible, despicable, cruel human being. Um, why did he need forgiveness? Or not need? Why did he deserve forgiveness? And I think that's what how a lot of people feel. Um, I think the thing that really brought it home for me though was Negan and Maggie having that conversation, when Maggie asked him, would he do it again? And
Would he do it differently?
would he do it differently? He said he'd kill all of them.
Yep.
And he was right. That would have been the right thing to do, because you think about it, you know, um, you have all these groups out there just trying to survive, and they all handle things differently. And yeah, he bullied other communities to get resources, but that was so his people would survive. So was he really that bad? I don't.
Yes. Yes, he was. I think he was as terrible as they made him out to be. I do. in that same vein, think that he was absolutely deserving of redemption, because I think everybody is. But in this show, they did string it along way too much. But he did beat their friends, and those were, what was that, season 6 or 5?
Season 7. That was season 7.
Was it season? Yeah, so
It was
season
season 7
7.
when he was introduced. Yeah,
Yeah. So you had 7 seasons of more than half the show where you had relationships being built. And Maggie was season 2. So you have, and which is kind of like season 1, to be honest with you. We didn't get too many season 1 episodes.
that's true. We only got 6 episodes for season 1.
Yeah. So I think that Negan, my whole problem with Negan was just when he just stole the show, and he was a scoundrel. Like he
That's
stole
true.
when he was the worst of the worst, he
Right.
was absolutely stealing the show. And you end up going, I kind of agree with this guy. He's the joke. He's Heath Ledger's Joker. He's like, everything he's saying is making a whole lot of sense, even if I absolutely, if I find everything he does, his actions repugnant. And he was only there because he knew exactly what people would do without the, if the alpha, so to speak, was not strong, that the betas would tear everything down
Right.
around you. So I don't think he was wrong in that way, and I do think that, Rick and his crew were, just as terrible. I mean, the things that they did and the hard decision they made, that you would not want to be them, right? You would not want to
Right.
be Negan. You would not want to be Rick. I think, and especially the things that Rick did, trying to get revenge, was just despicable. Like, as worse, if not worse.
Well,
So
I will
no,
quote
none of these.
Negan on something of what you all are talking about. That is, you remember Gracie, the young child that Aaron adopted?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did Negan say? Gracie had parents
He's like,
too.
Yes.
yeah, Gracie has parents too. And he said something to, don't think that I don't know who that baby is.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
exactly.
it's just
Well,
like, look, he's accepted the outcome, and
He
it is what
has.
it
I
is.
mean, he fought a battle. He lost. This is what it is. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So they get to the tower. That's the big thing. Maggie comes in and saves the day. Her and Elijah, who was this really cool kung fu at first looking dude with the mask on and the hook
Then they make
thingies.
him into a sissy.
Yeah, well, he brought that up, Lady Cephas. I didn't say those words. He said them. But again, I'll just say this and move along so we'll go on to season 11. At the end, it's Negan and Beta,
mm-hmm.
which, by the way, in the comic book, that's how it goes down. Negan kills Beta. That's how it's supposed to go. Now, obviously, they didn't do that. They had him and Daryl, which, by the way, I thought was a very cool ending with the knives in the eyes from the back.
That was fantastic.
I loved it. But here. This will be my last point about this. I'll move on. He goes, you recognize who that was? Yeah, he's a nobody. I'm cleaning it up. And he thumps him on the shoulder like a guy does a guy who's his friend. He lifts him up and they go. I'm like, you just basically did a man thing of, hey, man, come on, brother, let's go. And then it's glossed over. But I digress. I want to get to the last episode of season 10, and then we'll finish up season 11. Negan's backstory. They brought his real life wife, Hillary Burton, on.
That's real life?
Yep. She was in One Tree Hill for a number of seasons. When it was, it was WB first, for those who can remember that, and then CW. But that was his real life wife. Of course, he was a gamer. Of course, he liked to play video games. Like, oh, you're killing me.
Call of Duty.
Yes, I was like, oh, of course. I'm just like, of course it was. I'm sure BA will love that when he sees it. I thought they did a pretty good attempt of kind of explaining how he started down the path of who he became. It wasn't your typical season finale, and I think I kind of liked it even more because it wasn't a typical season finale.
Oh, was that the season finale? See, that's the thing about streaming.
Yeah, that actually was the final episode of season 10.
Okay. Well, I thought that was a great episode. It's probably one of my favorites.
And that's when he actually took Lucille and burned Lucille in the fireplace, and
Yep.
just finished that up. And I thought, wow, again, I didn't think of it at the time as being the season finale, but I went back and looked before we started recording. I'm like, well, dadgummit, yeah, it actually is. All right, well, the Whisper War is over. We go on to season 11, but one last thing from season 10. There's this very perky uh, Hispanic young lady, Latino young lady. We show up by the name of Princess.
My favorite. I love Princess.
Lady
Yeah.
Cephas'
Yeah, like,
favorite.
well, she's kind of like the audience.
Yes,
She's
yes.
she's the audience member of the show, where you are supposed to kind of internalize her.
Mm-hmm.
Like and see, this is another like trick of the director to show you, I mean, or I should say it's a tool that they use to bring you in as a, like, this person is going to be written in such a way where it's like elation, where
Mm-hmm.
you've been through all the stress, and now the elation period, they bring in this fresh pair of eyes, this disruptive force, kind of in none of the characters know how to handle her, none of them,
No,
like
no,
they,
she's out of control.
yeah, she's absolutely out of control. You don't know if she's actually playing them. You don't know if she's serious, and quite frankly, yes to all the above. Like, she knows she's crazy. She knows
Right.
she's weird. She knows she's like, but you know what? She's gonna be true to herself, and she's gonna walk through a minefield, right? So to speak,
Well, how about
metaphorically
what
and
she?
physically.
Well, yeah. Well, that is exactly what happened, isn't it? How about her with her staging of the walkers in the
Look,
cityscape?
love at first sight. That's what it was for me.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. I still love it. I thought that, you know, that was her life size dollhouse
Yep.
that she had when she was a child. And she had, people set up and she played with them and talked to them. And, but she was smart enough to set them up to where they couldn't come after her because she had no one else. She had no one to talk to. She wasn't even sure they were real when they showed up. I just loved her.
By the way, do either one of you
Yeah.
know what her real name was on the show? They called her Princess. Do you know what her actual name was in the series?
No.
Mm-mm.
Juanita Sanchez.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
But Princess will do because she'll always be Princess to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
They
thought
completed.
she
Go ahead.
I thought that she they played around with her character a little bit too.
Mhm. They
I
did.
think that a lot of, I'm I don't know what the fans thought about her, but I could see a lot of people having mixed reactions to her,
Sure.
and maybe the tweaks they did to her character and the timing on her backstories and stuff was, them trying to react to the audience. But I thought overall they did a good job with her. I did find her like circumstance a little like comic booky, and maybe that's because
Yeah.
maybe she's really big into the graphic novel. But it felt like weird to me that there's a town in between Alexandria and the Commonwealth that had her there, and nobody's driving through that town, type of
Hmm.
deal.
It
And
was a little odd, and they kind of played it up like it might have been like
Well, I think,
towards the Pennsylvania side.
yeah. But my thought was not that, you know, people didn't come through there, but that she was smart enough to know to hide and how to hide,
Mhm.
but no
in
hide,
that
no
big old
zombies
city.
that are in the house, though. That's the thing. It's like they stumbled real quick onto her little playland.
Well, they did, but I think, it could have been that since they were a smaller group, she was okay with letting them know she was there. A bigger group could be, scarier. And also the fact that they had women in their group, or a woman.
Eugene.
No.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
I'm not.
Yumiko.
I'm not
Yumiko.
talk. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the her like showing herself. I'm talking about the location in general and
Oh well, yeah. It's all a
it's
little
this clear.
suspect.
Yeah, it was that clear of zombies, and the ones that you did see are pinned up like dolls. you you don't know how to take that, right? That's like,
Right.
is this crazy town? Is this like, are we about to get got by some crazies? And of course, yeah, there's a crazy, but it just felt like the town's existence, that they just happened to go through it on their way to a place that this would have been an untouched. I mean, because it looks pretty untouched. Like whatever happened here happened. The horde is gone.
Right.
Um, I would have I would have liked them to weave the whispers in there, where the whispers may have gotten part of their herd from the north, and them say, or the west. You could say, give you when Eugene is talking to, whom he thinks is on the other side of that
Stephanie.
radio.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Yeah, when they're talking about locations near the end, right? And there's a whole lot
Right.
of, I got to get here, I got to get here, I got to get here.
Right.
They could have had dialogue with the whispers where they said we could always get more from that town, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
And then they build connective tissue to regions and stuff like that. That's where I'm saying a lot of they spend some time on pointless things, and then they don't spend time on world building things. And that's where I kind of just like, gosh, there's so much potential here. And they keep doing these stupid television like tricks and time wasters. It's like I'm watching Star Wars episode 2, like, Coruscant chase all over again, where 20 minutes of the show is just them like flying through the streets and nothing is happening. I was like, why were you doing this? You wrote this, you could have wrote it better.
Well, even at the end of even at the end of the series, we still have questions that were never addressed. I know Virgil helped the kids escape when they were overrun by walkers when the big storm hit Alexandria.
Yep.
I still don't know where he is. I still don't know what's going on. I still need more about the railroads that were running with Commonwealth, which, interestingly enough, that was the way the Walking Dead comic book series ended. They had the railroads running all the way out west, which, by the way, that gets addressed in Fear the Walking Dead in season 8. So when you get there, they'll actually touch on what the mothership did not. But because they do more world building with that, actually, than The Walking Dead ever did, which is kind of weird, but interesting at the same time. The Commonwealth shows up in their a la Stormtrooper outfits, which is what Lady Cephas thought they were. And in her defense, they sort of kind of resembled that or paintball uh, outfits with the masks.
Look.
But they end up being the last bad. Well, no, skip that. It's actually the Reapers were the next big bad, and that was the group that overran Mean Maggie and her group. And that's when we get Leah, who is Daryl's first love interest, as far as we know in the show. We now know where Dog comes from. And I get to utter these words to you both. As Pope, their leader, would say, "Are you not ashamed? Are you not ashamed?" It's just fun to do every time. I didn't think his characterization was particularly great, but I did enjoy that part because, as Broken Ansible knows, I like really silly dialogue and silly movies. So that came across that way to me, but kind of felt that was just kind of a placeholder because I don't think they had 24 episodes around Commonwealth. I think 16 or 10 was about the most they could do at that point of the franchise.
Well, I really enjoyed, when they went into DC
Mm-hmm.
and they were in the subway system,
Right.
and all of that. I thought that was cool. I did not enjoy so much, it kind of felt like the whole thing was cultish, like a cult, a medieval dark cult driven group,
Which group are you referring to?
the Reapers.
Oh, okay, with Pope and the mercenaries, basically.
Right.
Okay.
I was glad that didn't last that long.
It really didn't.
It did not, and that was a good thing. I was not a fan of Leah either.
Stop hating on Daryl's girl. Maggie killed her.
I'm not convinced that that's Daryl's girl. I think that
He got a dog in the separation.
well, I think that in the story, my I'm not sure what your take is on it, but he was looking for his brother, but he stayed in that area. He stayed there with her for a while, and I think it felt like to me he was trying to get back some humanity and seeing if he could be around someone. I feel like he had to really get away from everybody to lose himself and then find himself again, and
I
I
think
think
he
Leah
found
helped with
himself in the arms of another woman.
He certainly did.
I think that was definitely his woman. I think they did have feelings for each other. I think it was pretty, at least to me, I thought it was pretty obvious that it was either going that way or it happened off screen.
Mhm.
Um and that it it was never gonna work because they're way too independent and they weren't telling each other the truth, so to speak. So I just, you know, I kind of felt like, yeah, the whole like, let's show you what happened 2 years ago type thing. I don't really care for those episodes too much, and I didn't really have an over opinion on her, bad or good. I
Right.
didn't like the Reapers. I thought that was just kind of like a doorstop that took way too many episodes to play out. Um,
I agree.
One cool thing about it though is when they fired the bottle rockets.
Oh, that was
yeah,
From that
fantastic.
was cool. I have to
That
admit.
was cool.
like I don't dislike the idea of the mercenary groups because remember this all comes from a graphic novel, right? This is basically Old Man Logan told from a non-Marvel, superhero zombie apocalypse, right? They're
Right.
people that are going from point A to point B in the apocalypse, right? That's effectively Old Man Logan. And you get to meet crazy things along the way, right? And this to me is a very graphic novel part of the story where they're not going to stay there long. This is just a couple series run and we're going to move on. What I don't like about it is that they don't know how to really drive that home in long running visual form. These are
Right.
not graphic novels. They're not $3.25 or whatever they were back in the day. These are, an hour of my time every week where you're subjecting me to ads. So that you're paying $300 for a month, right? So you're paying way too much for your single show that you like on television, and this is what you get. Like, that's for me, of course. It's $15 or whatever Netflix costs a month now for me, so I'm not having to watch this week to week, so I'm not getting subjected to ads. But
Right.
at the same time, I see where everybody else is, and these episodes kind of like, I start to find myself playing a game on one screen and leaving Netflix up on the other screen during these episodes,
Gotcha.
or I'm watching a YouTube video and just watching the other episode with like the corner of my eye. That's those episodes with the Reapers, because they just happen out of nowhere and they kill off everybody, and then all of a sudden now there's three, and three people
Right.
are running away with wounds. Oh, and now there's two. It's that I'm just kind of over that type of episode. It's not interesting anymore. And when they did bring, like, I couldn't believe that they're just gonna let Daryl in the complex with them, right? And it's like, are they really using the keep your friends close and your enemies closer cliche? Like, are they really doing that? Because if you get that into your mind right up front, everything that plays out on screen is paint by numbers.
Right.
And what, I was just like, as soon as something happens, they're going to put them in through trial by fire. And guess what? Trial by fire.
They put him and
And
her in a burning
yeah,
building.
yeah. And it's just like, golly, they couldn't get any more obvious with this. Like, I just find that their storytelling just really falls down when they're and in anime, this would be called filler content,
Right.
right? This is like the graphic novel, it doesn't have anywhere to go, so we're going to create this, piece, and we're going to spend a few issues on it, and then we're going to be done and get back to a regularly scheduled program. um you know when the artwork comes in, and that's what these television shows feel like. Like,
Well,
it's
it's a mini series in the middle of a run that we break up between one run to the next.
Okay, but
yeah.
also, realistically, how many people are into graphic novels that are watching this? I mean, not
No,
me.
you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. That is what it is, right? This is a graphic novel. This is a story trope from a graphic novel. This is the filler content. This isn't getting you anywhere except to fill a void that they have to fill to step you front to the real show, which is the Commonwealth, right?
Gotcha,
That's the
gotcha.
show.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that these are completely like throwaway episodes. The problem is they're not treated, they're putting it on the same platform as the real meat and potatoes, right? Because it is going to waste to and the Mandalorian did this. Ahsoka did this. The Rebels, TV show Rebels, did it a lot, where you got 60% of actual show and then the rest is just filler junk, right? These were nothing but like sweet tooth filler junk. um some of the characters were cool. You get some, I hate this guy, because they made him hateable and he gets killed, and I liked it when he got killed, that type of reaction from the audience.
Right.
But it doesn't serve the show overall, and you could have cut it out completely and nobody would have cared, right? You could cut Leah out
Probably.
the show, nobody's going to care about her.
Well, I will just say this yet again: Maggie ruins people's lives. That's all I'm saying. She got Leah killed, and we'll
Well,
never
well,
know.
Leah, but Leah doesn't even have a good payoff. Like the whole thing with the Commonwealth dude, doing all that stuff. I didn't feel it, and I watched that yesterday. I watched it yesterday. It's fresh. I didn't care. I was just like, oh, she's dead. Yep, I don't care. Move on.
Well, I had a little
I
fun with
just
Lady Cephas about it, and I'm like, I was just trying to poke her to, get a reaction out of her because it was just kind of there. I had to get through that to get to what we knew, where we knew everything was going eventually,
yeah.
which was the
The
Commonwealth story.
oh, you mean the French Revolution story?
Yeah, pretty much. They had Governor Pamela Milton,
Mhm.
who we couldn't figure out we knew her. We couldn't figure out who she was. She played the mother to the FBI agent on the blacklist for a couple of seasons. That's where we knew her from.
Oh, okay.
Um, Rostova, Rostova, wasn't that the last name? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
But I thought she did a really nice job in what she was given. She did very good with her speeches and her oratory. One thing Eugene gets and Negan gets and she got was some really James Spader like writing to where you want to hear them give the whole
Yep.
speech, right? Their characters, for whatever reason, always got really good writing for that. God bless Eugene. I don't know how that actor ever put those words together. in that form or fashion. That could not have been easy to
Yeah,
stay
I
that
really
dialogue.
like. I Eugene's one of those characters I like and I hate at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess I should say I love. I love him and I love and I hate him and I love to hate him. All three. He's the full package, man. Like this guy is such a weird character that he's so unlovable and unlikable, and yet he's loved and liked.
Yep. And look, came a
And
long way from where he was to where he
and
ended
he
up
make
being.
and he makes no bones about it. And he confesses everything. He doesn't hold things back. I think that's what I like about him is that this dude lied to everybody over and over and then was just a coward over and over and then turned on everybody over and over. Then he forced his own redemption arc. And I think that's what I liked about him. Is like he created the redemption arc out of his own two hands. It
Right.
wasn't it wasn't a force of nature, a thing of revenge, a obvious conclusion to actions that happened by an external force. No, this dude could have played it safe and he could still be running along with the other saviors that left the area, right? He could have just left at some point, but
Right.
no, this dude undermined Negan, put and you don't even know if he did it, if he really intended to ever do it. It wasn't a scheme that he hatched from the beginning. This was literally him doing like a 11th hour turn, or at least that's the way I see it, as an 11th hour, like I'm going to not turn on my friend that he just puked on. And you know that's I was just like, man, this dude, did they really just do this? Did they really just make this character just kind of usurp all expectations? And that's where I thought that they got me. I didn't see him until, like, I was just like, is he? Nah, no way. And then sure enough,
Well,
silver flattered Negan.
he I'm not sure that he came up with it originally, I guess, or he could just be crazy like a fox, and maybe that's just one of those things we'll never know. But what we do know is there were some people in the Commonwealth I think were kind of standouts in season 11 as we kind of wind this down, and that is Sebastian, who was the son, who I know you had strong feelings about. Um,
Oh, could
he
I disliked him more than I disliked Henry.
Oh, now see, why did we have to bring Henry into this? That was season 9.
I
Why?
You
think
know
they
what?
were the same character for me. I hated them
Oh my
both at
gosh,
first.
why?
That
Why?
they I no I hated them both at first, right? And I started to appreciate Henry near the end because they basically get passed Carl's torch to him.
Hmm.
And then of course Judith gets that torch. So he was just kind of like a temporary torch bearer. I thought they
Right.
did a good job with that. Brought the new girl on, and now she's helping carry that torch. She's also manning up, unlike her new boyfriend, who's a sissy. Um, with
Henry.
little
Hmm.
no, her new boyfriend, who's a sissy.
Elijah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Elijah, yeah,
Henry
who,
Jr.
yeah, Henry Jr. Yeah, we'll just call him Henry Jr.
Wow, it's gone
But
off the
I
rails.
I I thought that this character in Sebastian is straight out of the 80s, like pop culture shows, right? Like
Right.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
this is a guy who would be in like the unlikable rich kid in
Yep.
Risky Business, or you know trying to get a date with one of uh the the workers, or it would have been in License to Drive, some kid that would be in a side, a jerk, for one of the Corys. That he fit that mold, right?
Yep.
This unlikable brat. But I thought his speech at the speech that he gave at the Glorious Wrestling event,
Yes, it was glorious. Thank you for noticing.
the best part of season 11, is the wrestling match.
So true.
It really does just bring home what they were trying to do, and also how I truly believe that Sebastian and the mom truly enjoyed watching it. I thought that was in it. Maybe her motives were different, but I don't think those weren't genuine enjoying. Like the laughter she was having watching it. I think that was all real. I think what they did with that was actually deeper than a lot of people think, and the the speech he gives, I actually think that should have taken the show in a completely different direction,
It very well
because
might have.
I do think that they talked, so they use these like, let's speak truth to power, these activist terms,
Right.
and these like what's your like answer, right? You can say all this junk, right? You can say it all day long, you can go out, you can pick it, but what are you going to do about it? And he was actually basically saying, he's speaking truth to power. He was like, this system is rigged, I'm just taking advantage of it. This is, but he doesn't sound like he's enjoying himself. He sounds like he's haggard from it. Like, and he wants the change to happen too, because he's not able to be himself within these confines, because what they want out of him, he does not want to give. He does not want to
Exactly.
be the person his mother wants him to be. And he's tired of it. I was just like, Max really made a mistake. She should have cut the tape off, and she should have cultivated that out of him. And they could have got 2 more seasons in the Commonwealth. And they could have had a true like happy ending, because they tried this happy ending and they got it after, these newfangled zombies, which we'll get into in a little bit, which were the other great part of the show, season 11. Um, the I thought they did Sebastian dirty. And yes, Sebastian would have a lot to answer for, but I'm at this point in the show where there's nothing anybody can do that isn't forgivable material for me. Like, if I can sit here and tell you I enjoy Negan's character after what he did, there's not much that I couldn't enjoy. And I think that they actually, the good thing about all the information they gave us about the Whisperers, when we actually got to their camps and we got to see, and you did actually kind of feel bad for some of these people who are getting bullied around by psychotic break people and sociopaths, straight up sociopaths, that, man, they put a good human face to it. I just didn't want it to happen in one season.
Right.
I wanted them to stretch the horror aspects of it, because they set it up like chef's kiss. And the powerful ending of that season finale, I guess, with the Pikes, I think they squandered it, right? They do these type of things that, and maybe it's because they do have a schedule and they don't think people will stick around for the long form. They got to concatenate it and kind of do these things and throw all the little director storytelling tools for television in our faces, and then give us just the meat and potatoes in 8-minute chunks. But I feel like the Commonwealth was told too quickly, and these zombies that can walk up, climb walls and open doors.
Yes.
I think there's several different places that this can go, and I don't know what they're, because I do not have any knowledge of the graphic novels. I don't know what's what. I don't really care, but I feel like in the back of my mind, I've not finished up Fear, so I don't know much about some of the things out west. And World of the Dead, or World of the Walking Dead, that show,
World
I know,
Beyond.
yeah, World Beyond. I knew that there's some sort of like, government there that was like, suspect. right? And
Yeah,
then
they were.
there's the
Yeah,
people,
CRM.
yeah, and then there's the people up in New York, that are doing whatever they're doing with Rick.
Hmm.
They have helicopters. If you have helicopters, you have supply chain. You have supply chain. You have doctors. You have scientists. I mean
Right.
that's just
Exactly.
so. I'm just like, is this going to be found out that the people are training these zombies and there's retention in their memory, or are we truly getting into some diabolical like horror type stuff, or are these like did they just spend a lot of time with the whisperers, so they just are now parroting what the whisperers did, right? So there's a lot of questions here, which I think they did a really brilliant job of bringing that to the table with me, because that's where my mind was going. And I thought the episodes of the invasion in the hospital was really cool.
Hmm.
And how we get zombies again, because I think when the zombies are on the screen, that's when a lot of the best of the Walking Dead happen. um and I love the when they found the cottage, the new King's cottage out in
Yes.
the middle of the woods, and you think it's the whispers, right? And it's
Right.
straight up not. It's these aberrations. And
Oh, dude, that was insane, man.
yeah, man, that was straight up like, old 80s horror. And I thought, these are the best pieces. However, I do wish that we had have gotten another, season of the Commonwealth, because I thought that they're trying to tie up way too many loose ends in a very short amount of time, and it felt like it. And you do see, like, it was also confusing because remember, I watched like 5 episodes yesterday,
Hmm.
easy 5 episodes. So, and I can tell you what, like, so you have the episode where she goes and meets Maggie, like
Hmm.
the governor meets Maggie,
Right.
and Maggie basically has a good, day with her, and then next thing you know, um, and it doesn't play out. Maybe I wasn't paying that much attention to it, but there was that moment where they round up all the people from Oceanside,
Yes.
and that's the last thing you hear for 2 episodes.
Yes. 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 That's correct.
That's dude, that's so awkward. Like, they're leaving, and then you don't really get a payoff with that information. And I'm just like scratching my head, and then the next thing I know, like, Maggie's leaving with her son out in the woods, and now they're in the back of a truck. And I'm just like, did I miss something? Are they skipping around? Like, is this going to be in a later flashback, or did I literally just miss a scene? Did I miss an episode? Did I misclick my Netflix, next button? Like, I just felt like, oh my gosh, they spent so much time with the guy, and I love the big brother of Max. I thought he was the
Oh, Mercer.
standout Mercer is the absolute standout character of season 11. I love that guy. He's and of course he's with the princess, like the best character.
As it
Um
should be.
and now they're a power couple, right? They're
Yep.
shipped. They're a power couple. I can't believe I just said that.
You did. We've got proof. Yes.
Right. But I thought they were the most intriguing characters, and it they had a lot to tell, and they had so much dialogue they had to get around him, because he didn't talk that much, right? So his dialogue comes through grunts and working out, and everybody's actually just shouting their opinions of him at him, and he's
That's
just
a
like, it
bad
is.
man. That's all I'm gonna say.
He's
That's a
he's
bad
just like it
man.
is. He's just like, it is what it is. You can't change the
Right.
world, while he's secretly, like, pulling a Darth Vader. Um,
I
but
thought the
but then
same
you
thing.
yeah, but then you get the scenes where they just show things happening and they don't really talk about it. And that's what I I'm just like, man, it's so dialogue heavy here and it's so visual heavy there. Like, man, this is getting hard to keep up with. Like, and I'm just like, I'm trying to pay attention, but they keep on like switching it up. And it
And see,
just felt like,
that was the trade-off that AMC gave them. AMC gave them their cancellation notice. They wanted a season 12. AMC said no. We're going to
I
cancel
just,
you in season 11. And so they said, well, can we at least get more because they were only going to get 16 episodes for season 11. That was it. And they compromised, said, we won't give you season 12, but we'll give you 24 episodes for season 11, give you a larger order. And so that was just kind of the construct they had to deal with. That was an AMC thing.
gosh, that, and
So,
how do you do that to your flagship? I just don't understand. Like,
well,
if AMC's listening, you guys done messed up.
well, and a lot of it, I'm sure, and we do talk about this when we have to, ratings wise. Everything is so pirated at this point. You don't have to have AMC Plus or AMC to watch anything on there. You can get it 50 different ways. So I don't think ratings were the thing. I think they had just spent all they were going to spend. They wanted to launch the spinoffs because the spinoffs are cheaper because they're less episodes. So you can spend more money on production costs, more money on salary, but overall it's not going to hurt you doing 6 episodes versus doing 16, 18, 22.
Oh, so they see the error of their ways in the Netflix way, or even the Disney Plus way. I hope they're not doing the Disney Plus thing, but
Yeah, but
because
that was kind of
that's not a
the
winning
restriction.
strategy.
Well, so at least early on, the returns on their spinoffs have been really, really good ratings wise and revenue wise. So maybe they've hit on something that works for them. Just do 6 episode miniseries with your
Well, at that
characters.
point, can you really say it's been canceled? I know they use the vernacular of the old TV ways, but obviously
Right.
it's not canceled, right?
The
If
mothership storyline is canceled. They thought branching it off, they could still milk the IP for additional opportunities. They just didn't want to deal with the original title anymore, I guess. I don't know how all that
yeah,
works behind the scenes, but you make a good point. You canceled the IP, but you didn't because the IP
you
lives on
didn't.
in
Yeah,
3 different spinoffs.
yeah, I mean, it just all they're doing is they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, and
Exactly.
which is fine. Which is fine. Everything's still called The Walking Dead, the Daryl Dixon story, right? It's not
Right.
like the all they're doing. They're not canceling the show. They're canceling viewer expectations.
Exactly.
That's all they're doing.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Yeah, their IP will live on in many different forms, but while they have these actors like Daryl's like in his 50s now, man, isn't he? Or
Yeah.
late 40s.
I
So
believe he's definitely in his late 40s. Yeah.
yeah, so he's getting to the point where, if he doesn't want to act, for the next 20 years and he wants to move on, dude can move on. He was a movie star before this show. He was in Blade 2.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I mean, he was already in movies. He
So
can go
Norman
back too.
Reedus will be 54 in
Yeah.
January.
Yeah. I love that guy. I mean, he's like him and his big brother or Merle. I mean, they're comedy
Oh
gold.
yeah, Michael
Like,
Rooker. Yeah.
yeah, I mean they're the best thing since sliced bread, man.
All right, so I've got just a couple more things, and then we'll call it for a night. Hornsby, Lance Hornsby. What did you think
He
of him
was
and his character, Josh Hamilton, who played Governor Milton's second? Kind of her
straight out of Deep Space Nine. He's from the Dominion.
interesting. Wow, that's an interesting take.
That was his character. He's what was that guy's name? Not Varun.
What Wayoon?
Wayoon. Yeah, he's Wayoon, dude, straight up. Man, but he was Wayoon, but he was a sociopath. He was a
He's
straight
Wayoon
up
number
sociopath.
9 now, right?
Yeah. Or
I
no,
thought it was
11.
interesting. By the way, I know it was cheesy as all get out, but the coin flip at Oceanside, the Two-Face coin flip, I liked it. It just for me, it just kind of worked for him and his scar and all that. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought he played a good sociopath and he played it up. Um I you know, I thought he was one of those genuine bad guys
Right.
where if you like had a brandy with the guy or a martini, he was going to tell you his entire like system of deviance,
Hmm.
and he'd either bring you in or kill you. And that, that's exactly who he was. And up until the very end, he was ready to cut a deal. And
Yep.
I think he believed every word that came out of his mouth was tagged for truth and for lie. And it was only how other people react to it, which is what bucket it would fall into. That's the type of sociopath that exists in the world. That is a true sociopath. And by definition, if
So
they
I thought,
speak, it's either a truth or a lie, but it's not by them making it truth or a lie. It's by how you react to the information, how it will be used, and how they will navigate the waters. That's a sociopath, straight up.
well, I did think it was interesting that he showed up one final time after he had perished when he was at the gate
Yep,
as,
for judgment.
yep. I was like, I like the way they ended that.
Yeah,
Um, that was good. You mentioned Mercer, who I guess is the lieutenant governor. Ezekiel is now Governor King or King
Ezekiel's one.
Governor.
Ezekiel is just top of the top, man. Best
I
character. Like, I'm not gonna say he's the best character in the show,
right.
but I will say he's one of the best characters to ever be put to screen.
A lot of those characters perished in the books. I think the ones that kept around longer for the most part did well. He was one of them. Princess was one of them. Father Gabriel long outlived what he was expected to do, and he kind of had a redemption arc himself through all of this as well. Um, Maybe we'll
And
come back
he's
and
one of
talk.
those characters that I didn't buy his redemption arc, but I like the ending of it. Like, I don't think they handled it too well.
Hmm.
They messed up with the Reapers. I think the Gabriel you'll get in the episode where he meets the Reaper pastor,
Yes.
and the Gabriel you get on Rosita's deathbed are two completely different people, and I do not think that they built the bridge to those two people.
So you think it was
That
just
those are
what it
that
is?
complete. It is what it is. It's just bad storytelling, or even one of those things where they're like, well, shucks, we got canceled. Screw it. We'll write a comic book and fill in the gaps. We'll pull the Disney out of rabbit out of her hat. But that the bridge did not get built between those two people. That is not the same Gabriel. The Gabriel you get when he goes to meet the people with the CIA agent that turns out to
Yeah.
be Negan's crew,
Yep.
that that is not the same Gabriel that is in the room with the Reapers. This is I mean, he's kind of like hardened more, right? You can believe the presence of Gabriel there is that Gabriel, but the Gabriel out back inside with the parishioner, or the, what do they call it? The people who go to church,
Yeah.
um,
Parishioners. You're right.
parishioners, and even with his family. That's not the same Gabriel that's in that chapel as he's killing a guy who is literally about to take his confession and probably just like, cry with him, right? That was a belief of all the pastors that you see on, secular television. That guy was pretty believable.
Hmm. I
That
agree.
was it. I was just like, huh. Those are things that I could hear from a reluctant pastor. Like, why did you put me with this group? Like,
Right.
why am I still here? Right. And he's like, you don't hear God anymore. I mean, the things that he said to Gabriel were for Gabriel, and I just don't believe the Gabriel we'll get in season 11 near the end is that same man. And there's something missing there, and it's just like it's so obvious to me that I can't enjoy it, because I did really like how Gabriel said goodbye to Rosita, and here's the kicker: said we'll meet again, and walked out the room and let her best friend have the last word. That was very, very thoughtful. I thought they really handled that good. I thought the whole scene, and I knew she was gonna, like, as soon as she fell, she got up. I knew she was a goner because they can't help themselves, right?
Right.
Somebody's got to be the ram. So it's really, it was really touching that they let, the moment pass. He leaves the room, takes the daughter, and then gives the room up. So that was cool. He wasn't a greedy person, and I did appreciate. I just wish we had gotten, A to B with Gabriel.
Well, an interesting enough, I guess he and Max are going to raise Coco. I guess now look like the way that the show ended. Um,
Wait, what?
well,
Max?
Rosita passed away, so I guess it's is it going to be Eugene and Max that were going to raise her, or is it Father Gabriel that's going to raise Coco?
It'll be Father Gabriel. I
Father, not
think,
the
but
father.
but I think that you'll find if they ever revisit, and they're probably never going to revisit these shows. They should probably just fire everybody and just pick them up for individual things, and let these people get on with their lives. You cut the show off, like, build your spin-offs, let people enjoy them. I hear they're very good, and I will watch them. And
Mhm.
I do have Dead City on Blu-ray, so
Gotcha.
um I'll be watching that this week. But I think that, don't go back. I just You tied it off in a nice little bow. Unless you're willing to invest in telling the story, the aftermath of the Commonwealth, then go ahead. But it seems to me like they probably shouldn't tell you that story anymore, unless it's like Michonne bringing Rick back. But I'm
Right.
not even sure if that's the direction they should go. It should be Judith actually setting out after them, type of deal. And I think that everybody is going to raise that child. Everybody loved Rosita. Everybody thought of her as sister. Everybody, I mean, she is Daryl Dixon on the other side. She is the Daryl Dixon for that side of the group.
It's true.
I mean, and I just thought that there are linchpin characters. I think Gabriel was a linchpin character. This dude, after he got over his cowardice, dude became like the dude. He would go out there and he would do anything. Aaron was one of them, and I didn't like the Aaron that we got. When they went back to Hilltop and he tortured Whisper. I did not
Right.
like that guy. I thought that guy was, a downward spiral. And I don't really like that type of episode. I don't like to watch somebody in their downward spiral. That's too easy to watch that in real time. Just go outside in the city and
Yeah.
you can just see that type of sadness out there in the world. So I typically don't like to dwell on those type of episodes. And while I do appreciate them adding flavor, as Lady Cephas was talking about, there are those different opinions you have to see. There are those, like, other people that make things feel real. I thought that was a good episode for it. I just don't care for them
Mhm.
because I don't like to see. I'm just like, dude, come on, don't kill the guy. I don't want to have that moral struggle while I'm watching TV. I'm just like, let the guy go, man. Like, what more can you take from them that you already did? The Whisperers are done for. Like,
Well, and that's really the question, isn't it? It's not just taking from the characters. It takes away, I think, a little bit something from the audience, especially as you start winding the show down. And that's kind of what we're going to do here, is just kind of wind it up in the last few moments. So you gave your score of season 10 as about an 8, maybe an 8.5. What would be your take on season 11? That was kind of the super season, had 24 episodes. What would be your number for that?
I see. I didn't really think I was that. How many episodes are in season 10? I didn't realize I
Uh,
watched that many.
hold on, I'll tell you. I think it was 16, but hold on. All right.
Gosh, it could have been 24. Did I watch 24
There
episodes?
were 24 episodes of season 11.
Gee,
Yep. Yeah, season 10
jeez,
had 22 episodes.
jeez. How did I don't know how I binged watched that many episodes. Um, was it 20? Did I miss an episode here or there? I'm gonna have to go back because I'll be honest, I don't remember it being 24. But I mean, it's possible. I was watching 5 or 6 at a time. Um, I would say it was probably an 8. I won't lie to
Okay.
you. I was actually answering the question before as 10 and 11 together. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't think I could give it any more than that. And not because I didn't think that some of the story that I appreciate played out in my own head. I mean, like as I unraveled everything, I'm just like, oh, I know what's gonna happen. Oh, I know what's gonna happen. Because some
Right.
things are just so obvious, and you've gotten to the point where you found out their tricks, so they're completely obvious. Um, so I thought it was just weak storytelling in some places and good storytelling in other places, and I do acknowledge that some of that is from their concatenated life cycle because they've
Sure.
been canceled. But that's not I don't the beauty about it is that's not my problem. That's all them. They wrote the material. They paid somebody to perform.
Right.
So it is what it is.
All right. Well, that is just about all the time that we have. We wanted to come and discuss seasons 10 and 11. We promised a couple of weeks ago, we did our last podcast, our last Realm of Reality, that we would. And so we have. And so before we bring this thing to a close, we just want to remind everybody first of all, thank you for taking time to listen. Thank you for time to watch us on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. If you would, and you're still with us, click the like button. It really does help us with the YouTube algorithm. Click subscribe. Turn that notification bell to gray, if you will. There's a lot of different content that pops up during the week, from terrible dad jokes. There'll be a special Halloween one tomorrow as we're recording the
So
night
bad.
before Halloween. Oh, it'll be so terrible. I've already tried it out on people. They hated it, which means it's perfect for what we're going to do tomorrow. We have sports updates. We have all kinds of things. So make sure you turn that to gray and select all. And then share this thing out on your social media platform of choice. If you like what you hear, we appreciate it. If you don't, share it out to people you don't like. Torture them so that they also may suffer. But on behalf of Broken Ansible, on behalf of Lady Cephas, I am still your humble host, the Lord Cephas. We want to thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Do leave a comment before you leave today. And with that, we are going to say so long, everybody.